All right, Dad, you've had a lot of jobs in your life, and I think Ezra would be interested to hear what was your favorite job that you had?
I don't have any favorites. I don't like to work. I'm only kidding. Um, I guess being in real estate has always been my favorite. Um, I started out, as you know, in the fire department, air rescue, crash rescue, and I did that for 7 years while I was in the Air Force. Prior to that, the only jobs I ever had that were jobs where people paid me money was cutting grass, um, shoveling snow, just odd jobs. I would do anything to make money. Those weren't fun at all. Those were way too hard. Not only that, but I was allergic to grass and everything else. So when I went out there, I was always not feeling well when I did that job. So that's probably the least favorite I ever had. But once I got in the Air Force and I got into engineering, um, I became a certified industrial engineer. But in industrial engineering, you had cost accounting, real estate, um, financial management, computers, um, and all of those things are things that I really, really liked. But out of all of them, real estate was the best. In fact, I was a real estate cost management analyst. The Air Force actually had a career field with all those particular jobs, and you had to know them all. So when you tested, you had to test and know all of those fields. Well, I was kind of fortunate that when I got into this career field, it was a brand new career field. Nobody knew anything about it. And so I got into it in 1970 when I was in Ohio at Lockbourne Air Force Base. And I worked in cost accounting, and that was kind of fun. I had two airmen that worked with me, and I was actually the ranking person, but they had been in the career field longer. But um, they used to play games. These guys were the fastest key punch operators I've ever seen in my life. We would have these labor inputs to put in for the civil engineers, all the work they do for the week. You're supposed to do it daily. Well, they would wait until like Friday, but in between they would play games and they were just two kooky guys, but they were really smart. So all the financial reports and stuff like that were done basically by the civilians. And um, I remember this lady, her name was Helen something, but she fell and she went to kick a soccer ball, fell and broke her leg. And I became in charge of cost accounting. That was the first time that I was in charge. And from that point on, I was in charge every place I went. Sometimes the responsibilities were higher, but these were the days when I first started where it was really fun doing stuff because I was learning and it's just fun doing stuff and accomplishing things that nobody else could do. But these two guys would play games with each other. They would time each other and they would put these what you would do is you would have a card that had your name on it, your grade, and what shop you worked in. And then whatever work orders you worked on, the work orders would be punched in with the hours that you put in. So they had these daily timesheets, and they were just these huge pieces of paper that the shops filled out. Now you remember this is all the shops in civil engineering, entomology, carpentry, painting, all the crafts, all the skills, plumbing, all of them. Everybody had to report their time. So these guys would play games, and they the games they played were who was the fastest. And this was like a cartoon character when you saw these guys. Their hands were so fast. And they called it the hopper box. You put a blank one in, you put the card in that has all the information, then you put a blank one in. So it would come through and we called it dupe. You would dupe the first, I don't know, 22 characters, and then you punched in the work order number and what they did, how many hours they spent on it. These guys, they had to slow down because the machine couldn't keep up with them. And then they were programmers. This is where I first started programming computers, right? With this key punch machine. You could program it to do a lot of things. They programmed it with Christmas cards and Easter cards, and they would play baseball games. It was really funny. This is a fun job. They would play baseball games. They would ball the cards up into a baseball. They made a bat out of these cards, and then they made the bases around the room. So if one guy would pitch, the other guy would be on offense, and I watched them when I first got there and was like, what are these guys doing? They can't do this. But they were so good at what they did. They had all this extra time and they used to make me laugh. So I learned from them how to program the computer, how to do a lot of different things. And then during that year, the computer came into civil engineering in 1970. So I was one of the first people to work on a computer and be trained on it. In fact, I I went to the command, the SAC command, the Strategic Air Command, as a trainer to go around the bases and train other people. All of that was fun. That was a great job. But I kind of got tired of accounting because accounting is accounting. And two plus two is four, and that's as far as you go. And so but I learned that field really well and I learned computers. And so I moved on. So my next assignment, I actually went into engineering as an engineering tech. And this is the guys that draw the drawings for the engineers. I would do all of that. And so, and then I came back to cost accounting, real estate cost accounting. And I went overseas. I went to Thailand because they pulled me back into that career field. So, like I said, that career field was new. So they were promoting very well. So I got promoted really fast because I could test well. And as for Ezra, this is about education again. We talked about education. Pennsylvania schooled me very well. And so when I went in the military, I was a lot smarter than a lot of my counterparts. It was just one of those things. Pennsylvania just educated kids very well. So I did well with all of that. And so if you do well in something, you're going to like it. So because I did so well, I began to really like this field and people would depend on me. And it just grew and grew and grew and grew. And I became an expert at what I did. And so um, I was in Washington, D.C., and I was working with 25 ladies. There were no men in cost accounting. This is the worst job I ever had. um, I mean, the worst. And it was accounting and all of these problems, this drama. The whole office was nothing but drama. So I went to the colonel. I was playing sports, and the colonel liked me a lot. So I went to him and I said, I want to go into real estate. So he didn't really want me to go because I was doing well in accounting, but he let me go, and so I went into real estate, and that was my beginning of being in real estate. I found that you get out of the office, you go out and inspect buildings, you meet people, you just do a lot more than sitting in a room and crunch numbers. And so I learned real estate really, really well because I really liked it. Well, then I got a degree in real estate. I started going to school for real estate. I really enjoyed real estate. So, as I said earlier, industrial engineering had all of these fields together. So, um, I became a certified industrial engineer because I had been in charge of industrial engineering, I don't know, two or three times. But I knew all of these other career fields. So, having that job was fun. It wasn't even like going to work because I knew what I was doing and, I didn't have to really talk to anybody. The only people I talked to were the design center folks, and they knew me very well, and they would use me sometimes if they wanted to try out a program or they would call and ask my opinion. So it felt really good to be a very young person that had all this responsibility throughout the Air Force. So that became my favorite job. I really haven't had that many jobs. Um, what I did there in the Air Force was three jobs, two jobs, and I found what I liked, and I was just lucky. So I think for Ezra, the lesson here is um, if you want to be successful, you have to work in something that you like. I had a kid that worked for me. I was at Luke Air Force Base there in Phoenix, and his name was Neil DeLorenzo. And he was really smart. He came out of finance and over to civil engineering, and he had no motivation. So I asked him one day, I said, Neil, why do you just come to work, do your job and go home? And I learned this lesson from him. He said, the difference between me and you is that you love what you're doing. And for me, it just meets the ends. I earn a living, I take my money home, I go on the weekends, and I forget about this place. And I never forgot that because I thought everybody had problems, with learning or they didn't know as much as I did. Well, there's reasons. If you don't like something you're doing, you're going to end up with just going to work, doing your job, going home, going to work, doing pretty soon it's very boring. But for me, nothing was ever boring. There were nothing but problems. And like I said, folks contacted me all the time when they had problems for solutions. So again, the caveat here is always try to find something that you really care about so that when you go to work, it's really not work, it's fun. So you take a 4-letter word and you make it a 3-letter word. Work to fun. So I hope Ezra can find something when he's growing up, find it early, and then capitalize on it, learn, be the best you can be at what you're doing, and enjoy your life.